Are you a bit of a workaholic? If you're like me and my clients, that may be an issue for you. That you're pushing all the time, that you're busy all the time, and you never seem to have time for yourself. That's one of the things that I work with my clients on, is helping them to give themselves a break. So there's this dynamic between pushing all the time and this other term we call flow. Flow, I often associate with that sort of spiritual place where everything is kind of falling into place all by itself, and that you don't have to exert effort because everything flows effortlessly. I'm Dr. Michelle Pedicola of Second Chance Secrets. I'm a personal transformational life coach. And my program is called Second Chance Secrets because I enable people to transform their lives so that they can have more joy in their lives. And today I'm going to be talking about one of the ways in which we remove joy from our lives, and that's that imbalance between push and flow. Sometimes it's hard to stop pushing. I know I am a workaholic like myself, and I enjoy being busy. The thing is that sometimes it's important to flow, because when we flow, we tap into that creative energy. We tap into spirit. We tap into divine source. And in order to do that, you need to flow. My Sufi teacher would often get us to go out and meditate in the woods, and sometimes do nothing. And it was by doing nothing that we actually were able to finally stop pushing and tap into flow. I have to take major effort to stop those inner horses from running all the time. And of course, my clients struggle with the same thing. Now, there are several reasons why we push all the time. First of all, let me say it's not all your fault. We live in a society, a culture hyped up on caffeine and drugs to make us push all the time. We are addicted to work, and we despise people who don't work hard. And we resent people who take care of themselves. I mean, how dare they? They should be working as hard as we are. And I grew up in a family, so that's the other place. Not only do we have culture, but we're taught in our homes, where if you were relaxing too much, my parents, my mother, would come up with some onerous task, like working in the basement or folding clothes or something. Well, clothes were not too bad, actually. It was a good way to hide. And so you develop this habit of being busy all the time. That there was this, you almost feel like there's this voice chattering in your ear. Oh, what are you doing now? Why aren't you busy? You have so much to do. What about such and such? And you stay busy. So we have a culture, we have drugs that keep us busy, like coffee or dark chocolate. I know that I go to dark chocolate. It gives me that energy that helps me move forward. And in addition, it feels good because you've been doing it for so long. It actually feels comfortable to stay busy. You don't have that voice chattering in your head. Oh, why are you being so lazy? And also, when you are working hard, it gets associated with pleasure, especially if you get rewarded for working hard. And because we're in a culture in which you are rewarded for working hard, and approved of and appreciated, you get that association, that dopamine hit from working hard. And so what happens when you take a break? Well, a lot of people work just as hard at their leisure time as they do in their work time. So how do we get to the flow? And why? Why do we need to flow? I mean, isn't it kind of like bogus? Like, people who get stoned or space out or don't do anything. I mean, we don't really want to be like that, do we? I want you to think about the heart. Your heart, the human heart. It moves in a momentum of contraction and expansion. The contraction creates the push to get the blood to flow through all the blood vessels of your body. So it's a really, really good symbol of how you want to live your life. And when I was working with my Sufi master, he had this rhythm of contraction and expansion, push and flow. How can you bring more push and flow into your life? How can you create that balance? And how do you know when it's out of balance? So one of the ways in which you can notice that it's out of balance is your health. Your body is a very, very good barometer of the balance in your life. If you have aches and pains, if you have exhaustion, if you're breaking out on the skin, that's a sign that something's out of balance. I teach my clients how to tap in, how to listen into their bodies to find out what's going on. Are things working, or are you pushing too hard? Are you giving yourself enough downtime? And when you take that downtime, are you really enjoying it? Let's talk a little bit more about flow. Sometimes when I'm taking a break, I just want to read a book or watch TV or blob out. That's not flow. That's actually avoidance. That's like turning yourself off. Real flow is getting into that creative place. And when you get into that creative place, you actually create more energy so that you can be more successful in your work. So one of the ways in which I do that is drawing and painting. That is an amazing way of getting out of the left brain and into a creative side. And when I do that, if I do that for a few days in a row, then I actually have more energy. It's amazing. I actually have more energy. The trick is to get myself to do it, because a lot of times I'll tell myself I'm too tired. Music is another way to do that. Once again, oh my gosh, I gotta go and put my guitar in tune. That'll take forever, and let me just sit and read my book. Another way is writing. Sometimes, though, when I get into writing, I can get obsessed with that, and I can get into that place of push again. So although I sometimes feel totally in the flow, I love it, and oh my gosh, I've written something, and then I go back and I smooth it, and I smooth it over and over and over again. And then I don't stop. It's almost like I'm afraid I'm going to lose the ideas. And yet when I actually take a break, when I go to sleep at night and I wake up in the morning, oftentimes I have really great new ideas, a whole different way of looking at what I've been writing about that's really valuable. So how can you create that balance of push and flow? I mentioned one of the ways in which you know that you're out of balance is that you maybe have health issues. Another way to know is how much energy you have. If you're exhausted, then you're not balancing it out with some kind of activity that recharges your batteries. What do you do to recharge your batteries? Do you go out for a walk? Do you hang out in nature? The other way in which you know that things are not going right is that you get crabby. You blow up. You are super sensitive. And that's a sign that maybe it's time for you to take a break. Maybe it's time for you to take a ride somewhere or to take a vacation. And the problem with vacations is I often find that workaholics like myself work just as hard on their vacations as they do when they are working. This is not what flow is about. Flow is about not knowing what you're going to do, but just showing up and seeing what happens next. What else? Maybe you're having problems with your relationship. That's often a good sign. Maybe you're not spending enough time with your partner because you're too busy working. Now, I happen to be married to a workaholic, so when I'm being workaholic, he doesn't even notice because he's even more of a workaholic than I am. Although I have to say that he does a lot of his work in the physical realm, so he's a lot more right-brained than I am. Although he certainly has left brain because he has to design all these projects, and there's a lot of thinking that goes in. But he's also working with his hands, and it's really good. It's a much better balance to work with your hands. I believe there was a time when our society was much more balanced because we were forced to use our bodies more. Now we sit at computers and mostly we're using our brains. So when you take that time to flow, you might want to do something that allows you to use your body. Oftentimes I have some challenges getting my clients to take time off. Part of it, as I said, is that it's a habit. Part of it is culture. But sometimes it's actually avoidance, fear of what's going to show up if you stop pushing so hard, like particular thoughts or emotions that you've been tamping down for a long time. And that is particularly what I work on with my clients, is addressing those underlying emotional issues so that they don't hold you back, that they don't prevent you from getting into flow. They don't prevent you from taking downtime so that you run yourself ragged and literally get sick. Let's see what else. So another example of the imbalance between push and flow. So there's also the pitfalls of flow. That is that you may be sitting around waiting for something to happen. That you are stuck and can't move forward and you're waiting for some sign that it's time to do the right thing. That can be a trap. And certainly people who, I know none of you are like that because you wouldn't even be on this Facebook Live if that was you. But some people will use drugs or alcohol or eating to anesthetize themselves. It's just like workaholism. It's just not as valued in this culture, that's all. Which is one of the problems with being a workaholic, is that you are actually encouraged and praised for being a workaholic. Whereas if you're sitting around stoned all the time, you probably get a lot of negative comments, don't you? And maybe you are afraid that if you take time for yourself, you're being selfish. And aren't you surrounded by people who are all the time trying to get you to do something, that need your help, that need your support? And that can be very addictive. You want to please them. If you are a pleaser, you want to please them, you want to support them. They're people that you care about, friends, family, and so you get distracted. And so again, you get caught up in that push, and now you have to go back to your own work and you have to push to get through, and you're exhausted. Let me see what else I've got on my notes. I think I'm almost finished. Hey, thank you for joining. So how do we get the balance between push and flow? You want to learn how to flow. I find that one of the best ways to learn how to flow, of course, is to tap into spirituality, to tap into meditation. That's one quick way. It's not the only way, because as I was saying earlier, also to be creative in terms of the activities that you do, because when you do that, it actually fills you with energy and inspires you, so that when you go back into that push phase, wouldn't it be wonderful to be in that push phase where you're excited and ignited and you are full of ideas? That's the idea of the balance. Because sometimes, yes, you have to push yourself. If I'm doing a Facebook challenge, I have a lot of moving parts to put together. If I'm going to be doing a presentation somewhere, there's a lot of stuff I have to juggle in terms of both promotion and getting the word out. There's a lot to do. If you're a coach, you know what I'm talking about. It can be a lot of work to get ready for doing a launch. It's important, though, that you aren't running on empty, that you are doing things that create that balance between push and flow, where you don't use flow to just turn yourself off, but you actually use flow to get your batteries recharged. But unlike a battery that sits in a device and receives energy from an outside source, you actually need to do things that recharge your battery. Specific kinds of things like creativity or being in nature or something like that. And if you're struggling with this, you might need some support. In fact, most of us have difficulty with this because it's such a habit. Because we feel like when we are pushing, we are doing the right thing, and when we're flowing, we're being selfish. And we may even have these ideas that somebody who's selfish is going to be abandoned, or people aren't going to pay attention. And so we feel like we have to keep on working. So I have something else to say, but I have forgotten what it is. So I'm going to stay here and see if I can remember it. Yeah, just take that breath. So some of the ways in which you can create the push that is ideal for your purposes, for your business, for your life goals, is to get inspired. And that's when you flow, that's a source of inspiration. You want to be excited and energized, so you want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself physically. You want to listen to yourself. And oftentimes when you collaborate with other people, that can be very juicy. Although if you are a workaholic like me, you have to be careful, because oftentimes there are people out there that they're kind of like the opposite of us, and they see us as somebody they can tap into for energy. And maybe you already have a lot of energy, and people will literally tap in and suck your energy away. So part of learning that balance between push and flow is learning to set limits. Yes, it is exciting when you're around people. And I used to have a mastermind buddy, and I would get very excited because just being involved with somebody else, my mind would just start to flow. But I gave her all my juice away, and there was no reciprocity. And eventually I had to break off with that because I was starting to feel resentful. By the way, that's another sign that you're pushing too hard, when you start to feel resentful, like you're working too hard and nobody is helping out. That's when you have to step back. Now, another sign is when you start to attract people that you think are selfish or are the opposite of what you feel is the right way to be, and they trigger you. They are your teachers. And if you want to know more about that, let's have a conversation. I'm looking for a few superstars to join a very special program called Second Chance Certification, in which I'm helping them to develop their powerful program that comes from their heart and from their experience. I happen to know that it's really hard to succeed in the coaching world. That the number of people that make more than 30,000 is a very, very, very small percentage of the overall number of people who are certified in coaching. And that part of the problem with coaching is that they teach you, when they certify you, they teach you how to be a cookie cutter clone of what they do. Because they think if they give you a formula, you will feel safe. And in fact, you do. I mean, I love formulas. Oh, show me the way so I don't make a mistake. That's sort of a signature of a people pleaser, is that they don't want to make mistakes. But to make it in this business as a coach, you actually need to be unique. And you need to find out what in particular makes you unique and who your particular clients are. That's what I do in my coaching program. I teach you, I guide you, I help you to identify what it is that makes you special. What have you learned in your life that you can bring into your coaching program? All the things that you've collected and gathered in all the trainings you've had that have helped you, and design a program that really sells. And the other part of that program is you stepping into who you truly are, being authentic. When you do that, you stop pushing so much. Because a lot of the pushing comes from trying to get it right, trying to be perfect. And that really is not what counts. What counts is, does it work or not? And you know, it's a lot of practice, trial and error. So if you are ready to have a conversation with me, there's a link in the comment section. Or you can check out my website and learn more about my Second Chance Mastermind certification program, my Second Chance certification program, and my Second Chance Mastermind, and see if that's a fit for you, and then let's have a conversation. I'm here to help you to get that balance between push and flow, to create a program and a delivery system that does not exhaust you, so that you don't have to work all the time, that actually inspires you to be creative, to love what you do, instead of, you know, the Monday morning blues where you say, oh my gosh, I have to do this again. And you know, the biggest sign that you're doing it right is success. And that's what I want you to have. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Pay attention. See how you are pushing and flowing, and how you can get more balance in your life. When are you taking too much time off, but not really utilizing it in a way that recharges your batteries? And when are you pushing on empty? I'm Dr. Michelle Petacola. That's all for today. Be brilliant, and bye for now.